so full of genuinely helpful advice that you can go and put into practice, and it really makes a difference on the deals you do, the prices you get.
But what you get, a lot of people say, no, I'm not a salesman. I'm an accountant. I manage clients. Or I'm an account manager, right? And they reject the fact that they've got to sell. Now, the thing is, you might as well just get over it. If you have to get money into your business by persuading other people to do stuff and give you orders, you are a salesperson, whatever your title is. So don't reject the role. But what a lot of people that are selling do is they do very, very meticulous planning about the sale, but not much planning for the negotiation. And they're two separate activities. And my view is, if you've actually done your selling right, you usually don't have to negotiate. Have you noticed that that is normally what happens? You get an asymptotal curve when the concessions are made. And this is usually made in the last 10% of the negotiation. Now, that doesn't matter whether that's an hour, whether it's 3 months, but anywhere where there is a clear delineation of when the negotiation is going to stop, that is typically what happens. Do you get that? So what you're trying to do when you sequence the agenda is, or what I try and do, first point on the agenda, something we're likely to agree about quickly, because that starts to make the suggestion that you're actually going to make some progress. My most important thing goes there, and I try and make sure that their most important thing goes there so that they're put under pressure at the end of the meeting. If I start there and you start there, it normally ends up plus or minus 10% of the midpoint. If you ask for more, the midpoint goes up. Do you get that? Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to ask for the most that you possibly can that you can defend. Now, some people have been on courses where they say, rule number one in negotiation, never name your price first. They could not be more wrong, assuming that it's going to be a negotiation. They couldn't be more wrong. They call this needs-based negotiation, or win-win, pass me the sick bag. In terms of, the idea of collaboration is you stick to getting your needs met, but you understand that they've got needs that have got to be met as well, and neither party gives up anything that's really important to them, so you have to spend a lot of time working out how the deal's going to work for everybody. I don't see much of that, and in the current economic climate, I'm seeing less and less and less and less, and more people are happy to win at your expense. BATNA stands for Best Alternative to Negotiated Agreement. So what are your alternatives? Your power is directly related to whether you've got any alternatives to doing this deal. If you've got no alternatives, your power goes down. It's a bit like if you look at the deal that the government did with the banks believed that the government didn't have any alternative. And what we had is we had half-wits doing the negotiations because they got no concessions from the banks. So what I do is I write down who I know, I write down what their role is, and I write down whether or not they fulfil one of those 4 roles in terms of structure. I then work out how much influence they have on the decision, 0 to 3. 0 is they have no influence. So the person that's a coach, you might know them. They may have no influence whatsoever on the decision, but they're important to know. If you look at how you define negotiation power, there's a bloke called Gerald Atkinson wrote, probably the single best book I've ever read on how to plan for negotiations. And he said that what people do is they want to do what they did yesterday. So in a lot of cases, anytime you're asking them to change something, you're going to get a lot of resistance. So if you look at most salespeople, what they're doing is they're talking about benefits and how this is lovely and everything else. Is that what you generally find? Why this is great? What you need to be doing is telling them about what the damage is if they don't do it, rather than why this is great. What happens here is if they interrupt you, you don't get the opportunity to attach your conditions to it. And in any case, as soon as you've told them something, if it's not what they want, they're already thinking about what they're going to say next. So they're not listening to you. It's a bit like the rationale, then the stake in the ground. So tell them what you want before you tell them what they're going to get in return. What this is saying is, if this is my concession pattern, you may as well continue to put me under pressure because I'm conceding at the same rate. What this is saying is, you'd be insane not to put me under pressure because my concessions are getting increasingly wild. What this is saying is I'm getting closer to the point at which I'm going to walk away from this deal. It may not be true, but that's what it suggests by the way you make the concessions. So you should make small concessions, make your biggest concession first, and then make them smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You got that? And don't use round numbers. If I said to you, I'll run all your negotiation training and it'll cost you 100 grand, how much do you think what size movements will I make if we negotiate? 10, 5 grand at a time. If I said it was £101,268, What does that suggest? Well, if I get the £1,268 knocked off, I've had a result. Woo! Right. But what else does it suggest?
Looks like you've thought it.
Yeah, looks like you thought about it.
Steve Jones has got to be just one of the best presenters that I've seen.
Looking at my sales force, looking at how we currently do some of our deals, we can implement so many of the ideas, the tricks that Steve mentioned during the seminar. So I think it really benefit our business.
He's got some amazingly pertinent points that you can learn from. And I like his direct style. There's no nonsense, and you can pick up his message straight away and use it.
And he'll give you a story just to back up the facts that he's given you. So just absolutely superb presentation, and I learned a lot today.
He's got that wealth of experience. He really knows his stuff. I cannot recommend Steve Jones highly enough.